My golden child sister sabotaged my wedding with her baby shower on the same day. My parents defended her. But when her husband found proof of her lies and filed for divorce, now they blame me for destroying her family. I'm 25 years old. I work as a digital animator, and honestly, I never thought the day would come when I'd be writing about this. But what happened at my wedding a few months ago left me so incredibly messed up that I need to get it all out. I guess the story really starts way back when I was a kid and my sister Miranda was, the perfect one. The one who could do anything, and my parents would act like she'd discovered the cure for cancer every time she breathed. I have memories from like age 5 of standing there while my parents applauded Miranda for getting good grades or winning some award at school, and I could bring home the same grades or better, and it was like, oh, that's nice, sweetie. But look what your sister did. You know what it feels like to grow up like that? It's like you're invisible in your own house, like it didn't matter how hard you tried because you were never going to be enough. Miranda is 5 years older than me, and for as long as I can remember, she was the family star when she was like 12 and I was 7. I remember she did a dance presentation at her school. Nothing spectacular, honestly, but my parents videotaped it, invited the whole family. I made a special dinner afterwards. That same year, I won first place in a statewide drawing contest. And my mom didn't even go to the award ceremony because she had to take Miranda to the dentist. Like, seriously? My dad did go, but he spent the whole ceremony answering work calls, and afterwards told me he was very proud. But he never hung up my certificate or anything. Miranda's, from the previous year, was in the living room in a giant gold frame. Things like that happened all the time, constantly. And when I was little, I thought maybe it was my fault. That maybe if I tried harder or was better at something, they would finally see me. The thing is, Miranda knew exactly what power she had. It wasn't just that my parents adored her, but she used it against me every chance she got. If I touched any of her stuff, she'd cry and my parents would punish me without even asking for my side. If we got in a fight, it didn't matter who started it. I always ended up being the one at fault because Miranda was older and supposedly more responsible. I remember when I was like 14, I'd saved up money from my allowance for months to buy professional drawing markers, and Miranda grabbed them without permission and ruined them all. When I complained to my parents, they told me to stop being so selfish, that Miranda just wanted to use them because she admired my talent. Like, what? She completely destroyed them, and I had to apologize to her for getting angry. That was basically the dynamic my entire childhood and adolescence. There was one person in the family who did see what was happening, my Aunt Rachel, my mom's sister. She tried to talk to my parents about the favoritism, told them they were hurting me, but they completely ignored her or got mad at her for interfering. My aunt supported me, however she could, took me to art exhibitions, bought me drawing materials, told me I was talented and special. She was basically the only real maternal figure I had, because my mom was so obsessed with Miranda that I could have disappeared and I'm not sure she would have noticed. When it came time to apply to universities, I wanted to study digital animation, and my parents told me it was a waste of time, that I should study something more practical like what Miranda had studied. She was an accountant or something, super boring, but they thought it was the greatest. I applied anyway with my Aunt Rachel's help, got a full scholarship to an incredible university in another state, and when I told my parents, they acted like I was announcing I was joining a circus. The day I left for university, I think I was 18 years old, just turned. My mom cried, but not for the right reasons. She cried because she said, I was selfish for going so far away when Miranda needed me close. Because I just had her first baby. And I should be there to help her. Like, excuse me? I was 18 years old, had just finished high school, and I was supposed to sacrifice my education and my dreams to be my sister's free babysitter. My dad didn't even take me to the airport, said he had to work. But I know it was a lie, because my Aunt Rachel told me later that he took the day off to help Miranda set up the baby's crib. That was like the moment something broke in me, you know what I mean? I realized I was never going to be enough for them, that I could cure cancer and win a Nobel Prize, and they'd still think Miranda was better for having baked a cake or whatever. College was, honestly, the best time of my life up to that point. I was far from my family. Nobody compared me to Miranda, and for the first time in my life, I could be myself without feeling like I was competing for crumbs of attention. I met incredible people, developed my talent, started working on animation projects I was really passionate about. I talked to my parents like once a month, super superficial conversations like, Yeah, I'm fine. Yeah, I eat well. Yeah, I go to classes. They never asked about my work or my projects. They always ended up talking about Miranda and her babies, because by the time I graduated, she already had 3 kids. I went home for Christmas and Thanksgiving some years, but it was unbearable. Everything revolved around Miranda, her kids, her life, and I was like a piece of furniture in the living room, there but ignored. After graduating, I got an incredible job at an animation studio, and I mean incredible because it was the kind of job I'd dreamed about since I was a kid. I was making good money, had my own apartment, was working on projects that were eventually going to come out on major platforms. I told my parents, and their reaction was like, "Oh, that's nice. But have you thought about settling down like your sister?" Miranda by then was pregnant with the fourth. Yes, fourth, and my parents acted like she was the first woman in history to have babies. I basically gave up at that point, stopped trying to impress them or seek their approval. I'd visit them maybe twice a year, barely called them, and honestly, I was at peace with that. My Aunt Rachel told me that someday they were going to regret it, but I didn't care anymore. Or at least that's what I told myself. I met Lucas when I was 23, at a tech and animation conference. He's a video game developer. He's 29 now, but when we met, he was 27. And from the beginning, he was different. He saw me, you know? Like really saw me. He cared about what I had to say, got excited about my projects, supported me in everything. I told him about my family early in the relationship because I wanted him to know what he was getting into. And he was like, "Wow, that's super toxic." And he supported me when I decided to keep minimal contact with them. My parents met him once at a super awkward dinner where they spent the whole night talking about Miranda and her kids, and Lucas afterwards told me, "Now I understand everything you told me. Your family is intense." I loved him for understanding me, for not trying to convince me I had to fix things with them or that I was exaggerating. Everything changed, like a year later, when my mom had a serious health issue. They found something with her heart. She had to have surgery, and my parents finally called me directly instead of me finding out through my aunt. My mom was in the hospital for like 2 weeks, and I flew to be there because, I don't know. Despite everything, she was still my mom, and I was scared she might die. During that time, there was like this weird moment where she was in the hospital bed, still weak from surgery, and she grabbed my hand and told me she missed me, that she'd been a bad mother to me, that she wanted us to be closer. I cried, obviously, because it was what I'd wanted to hear my whole life. I thought maybe, finally, things could change. My mom's recovery was long, and during those months I called more often, visited more, tried to rebuild the relationship. My dad was still kind of distant, but my mom seemed genuinely to be making an effort. She asked about my work, about Lucas, even watched some of the projects I'd worked on and said she was impressed. I wanted to believe things had changed, that the health scare had made her realize things. Miranda during this time was like, "Oh, how good that you're here helping," but I could see on her face she didn't like that I was getting attention from Mom. She was still the favorite, obviously, but at least I wasn't completely invisible anymore. Lucas and I got engaged like 6 months after my mom got out of the hospital. He proposed to me in a super sweet way, nothing ostentatious but very personal and meaningful to us. When I told my parents, they seemed happy, or at least acted like they were. We started planning the wedding immediately because we both wanted something relatively soon. We didn't want a super long engagement. And we chose a date. It was a Saturday like 8 months after the engagement. We sent save the dates with like 6 months' notice. Everything super clear. Fixed date, venue confirmed, deposits paid, everything. Miranda at first acted normal about the wedding, like, "Oh, how exciting, congratulations." But I could notice there was something weird. I don't know. I knew her well enough to know when she was plotting something. She was pregnant with the fourth baby at that time, was like 5 or 6 months when we got engaged. She started making weird comments like, "I hope you don't mind that I'll be pregnant at your wedding. I don't want to take attention away from you." I'd tell her there was no problem, that I was happy she'd be there, but she kept insisting on the topic in a super strange way. The thing exploded like 2 months before the wedding. My cousin Lena, Aunt Rachel's daughter, called me all upset and said she had to tell me something. Turns out Miranda had been planning a baby shower for the same day and same time as my wedding. Like, exactly the same time. And not only that, but she'd sent invitations to the whole family without telling me anything. Lena had received her invitation, and when she saw the date, she almost died. She sent me photos of the invitation and I couldn't believe it. Literally couldn't believe it. The invitation was super elaborate, clearly expensive, and had the exact date and time of my wedding. I went crazy, obviously. I called Miranda immediately and asked her what the deal was, and she acted all innocent like, "Oh, I didn't know it was the same day. Must be a mix-up." But Lena had told me that Miranda knew perfectly well because she'd mentioned something about, "Oh well, we'll see who comes to what." I called my parents and my mom said she'd talked to Miranda, that surely it was a misunderstanding, but my dad was more direct and said Miranda had already planned everything and paid deposits, and maybe we could move the wedding. Excuse me? That I should move my wedding? That I'd planned months in advance because Miranda decided to make her baby shower the same day on purpose? Lucas told me to keep calm but to defend my day, that we weren't going to move anything. We decided to send a message to all the guests explaining the situation in the most diplomatic way possible, basically saying there was a date conflict with another family event, but that our wedding was still on as planned and we'd understand if some people couldn't attend. We asked everyone for confirmations. The response was interesting. Most of the family said they'd come to the wedding, including several aunts and uncles, cousins, and of course my Aunt Rachel. Only my dad and like 3 relatives from Miranda's side said they were going to the baby shower. My mom called me crying, saying why was I causing drama? That Miranda was very upset. That this could affect the baby. I told her I hadn't caused anything. That Miranda had done this on purpose, and I wasn't going to move my wedding. She kept insisting I try to be the bigger person and find a solution that worked for everyone. I told her the solution was for Miranda to move her baby shower because my date had been set for months and she knew it. The conversation ended with her hanging up on me. The 2 weeks before the wedding were hell with messages from my mom and Miranda trying to make me feel guilty. Miranda sent me messages like, "I can't believe you're doing this to me during my pregnancy. You've always been selfish." I eventually blocked her because I couldn't deal with that while trying to finish organizing my wedding. My dad didn't talk to me directly, but my mom told me he was very disappointed in me. My Aunt Rachel was my rock through all this. Told me to go ahead, not to let them ruin my day. The wedding day arrived and I was super nervous. Not just normal wedding nerves, but because I didn't know if Miranda was going to try something. The ceremony was beautiful. Perfect. Exactly like I dreamed it. Lucas was crying when I walked in. I was crying. My Aunt Rachel, who walked me down the aisle, was crying. Most of my family was there, which honestly surprised me. I thought more people would choose Miranda. My mom was there but looked uncomfortable, and my dad obviously wasn't there. Everything was going well until the reception. We were in the middle of the first dances when the door opened and Miranda and my dad came in. Miranda was obviously pregnant, like super pregnant, and she walked in like she owned the place. My dad came behind her with an angry face. I froze, didn't know what to do. They went straight to where my mom was and started talking loudly, like, loud enough for people around them to hear. Miranda started saying things like, "I came to see if at least my sister would deign to come say hello on my special day." That after all, she was also celebrating something important. My dad was there supporting her, saying it was disrespectful that I'd done my wedding the same day as Miranda's baby shower. People were turning to look. The DJ had turned down the music. It was a nightmare. I felt like I was going to faint. Lucas grabbed my hand and told me to breathe. My best friend Zara, who was my maid of honor, went straight to them and told them they had to leave, that they were ruining my wedding. Miranda started yelling that she'd been invited, which was a lie. Technically, she was originally invited, but it had been clear she was going to her own event, and that she had every right to be there. I finally found my voice and walked toward her. I told her, "Miranda, today is my day. I planned this wedding months in advance. You decided to make your baby shower the same day on purpose, and now you come here to make a scene. Please leave." She looked at me with so much hatred, like real hatred, and said, "You've always been selfish. You've always wanted to be the center of attention. That's why you went to live far away and barely talk to us." I told her I left because she and my parents had made me feel invisible my whole life, that I'd never been enough for them no matter what I did. My dad intervened, saying I was ungrateful, that they'd given me everything. I literally laughed, like a bitter laugh, and told him, "Everything? When? When did you go to a single one of my school presentations? When did you celebrate any of my achievements? When did you make me feel like I mattered as much as Miranda?" My mom was crying. looking away, saying nothing. That was almost worse than everything else. That she wouldn't defend me even in that moment. Lucas called venue security, and they escorted Miranda and my dad outside. Miranda was screaming all the way, saying this was abuse, that I was horrible, that the baby was going to be traumatized. It was the most dramatic and horrible scene you can imagine at a wedding. After they left, I tried to continue with the reception like nothing happened, but I was devastated. Lucas was incredible, hugged me, told me he was sorry, that my family was toxic and I didn't deserve that. My friends and the family that did support me tried to lift the mood, and eventually, I managed to relax a bit and even enjoy parts of the night. But deep down, I knew something had broken permanently, that there was no going back after this. We went on our honeymoon to Japan. It was a trip we'd planned for months, and I desperately needed to disconnect from all the drama. During those 2 weeks, I didn't talk to my family at all, not even my mom. I only sent a message to my Aunt Rachel to tell her we were okay. When we got back, I had like 50 messages from my mom saying we needed to talk, that things had gotten out of control, that we all needed to calm down. I called her and she wanted me to apologize to Miranda for kicking her out of my wedding. Like, are you kidding? I told her no. I wasn't going to apologize for anything. That Miranda had sabotaged my wedding on purpose. And if she couldn't see that, then we had nothing more to talk about. My mom started crying, saying she was trying to keep the family together, that her health issue had taught her how important family was. I told her she'd never defended me, not once in my life. And the fact that she still wasn't doing it showed me nothing had really changed. I hung up and blocked her too. Like a month later, I got an unexpected visit. Marcus, Miranda's husband, knocked on my door. I almost didn't let him in, but he looked devastated and asked me for please 5 minutes. I let him in, and what he told me was crazy. Turns out Miranda had told him that we hadn't invited her to the wedding, that we'd excluded her on purpose, and that's why she'd planned the baby shower that day, so she wouldn't feel bad being alone. Marcus had found the original invitation to our wedding in Miranda's drawer with the date clearly visible, along with drafts of her baby shower invitation where she'd tried different dates before deciding on ours. Marcus told me he was filing for divorce, that this had been the straw that broke the camel's back after years of lies and manipulation from Miranda. He said he was so sorry about what happened at my wedding that he didn't know the truth at the time. I honestly felt bad for him. He has 4 kids with her, but I also felt vindicated, because he'd finally seen what I always knew, that Miranda was capable of anything to be the center of attention. Miranda obviously blames me for her divorce now. She sent me messages from unknown numbers saying I destroyed her family, that I ruined her children's lives. I've blocked her every way possible, but she finds ways. My mom called me from a friend's phone to tell me Miranda is devastated and I should talk to Marcus to convince him to stay. I said no, that wasn't my problem, that Miranda had created this situation herself. My mom told me I was cruel, that I had no heart, and hung up. Now, I have contact with my Aunt Rachel and some cousins who supported me through all this. My dad has never apologized or tried to contact me. My mom tries every now and then, but it's always to ask me to fix things with Miranda, never to accept her responsibility in how they raised me. Lucas tells me I did the right thing, that establishing boundaries is healthy, but I'm not going to lie. Sometimes I feel guilty. I wonder if I'm the one exaggerating, if I should be more understanding. But then I remember my whole childhood feeling invisible. I remember every time my achievements were ignored while Miranda's were celebrated. I remember my wedding and how even on that day she couldn't let me have my moment. And then I know I made the right decision. I'm married to an incredible man who loves me and supports me. I have a successful career. I have real friends who care about me. I don't need people in my life who only make me feel bad. Last week, my aunt called to tell me Miranda had the baby. A boy. She asked if I wanted to know details or see photos, and I said no. Not because I hate the baby, obviously, but because I know any contact with Miranda is only going to bring drama. Part of me feels sad that things got to this point, that I basically lost my family of origin. But another part of me feels liberated. Like I finally took off a weight I'd been carrying since I was a kid. I don't have to compete anymore for attention I was never going to receive. I don't have to feel less than for the rest of my life. Lucas and I are talking about eventually having our own kids. And when that happens, I know I'm going to do things differently. I'm going to make sure my children know they're loved equally, that their achievements matter, that they don't have to compete with each other for my love. I'm going to break the cycle of favoritism and toxicity that destroyed my relationship with my family. And that, I guess, is the only good thing I got from this whole horrible experience. The certainty of what kind of mother I never want to be.